got my bass here.
Excellent.
I'm learning how to play bass.
Is
Well, I mean upright bass.
how much? It's got to be much tougher than the electric. No frets.
It is. It is, but it's like playing blind. Because there's no frets, but also the bass I got is all black.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So actually, if I turn the lights off, I'm completely blind.
That's usually how that works. Yes.
How you doing?
When did you get the bass?
Actually, I used it for a Tandoori Nights show. It's a band that I do with Bloodshot Bill.
Right.
We do. We were on Norton Records. We did this kind of like mystic Bollywood rock and roll.
Very good. So how's things in Berlin?
Man, it's not looking good. I think they're shutting down everything. Even I mean, restaurants can do takeout and stuff like that, but
right.
The numbers are way up, and it's a really scary time all over the world right now. What's going on?
New Zealand, we're a little bit better off, but
you're doing great, and you got a wonderful person running the show.
We do. Good old Jacinda.
Yeah,
we love her.
I know. I don't understand why all of the politicians in America and Canada, well, I guess not Canada, but how come they have to be like 80 years old to rule the U.S.? Oh, but actually, I do know why.
Yeah, I think we know why. Got to break down the system, start it again.
Exactly. The old boys network is flailing at its arms as it drowns.
Yes. So you got a record out in a couple of days, The Infinite Ones. How are you feeling about that?
Yes. I'm excited. I never thought that I would do a jazz record. And I guess when this pandemic started, I started really, well, actually, I mean, my wife actually had a cancer removed before the pandemic.
Right.
So we were waiting 6 months to find out if it had spread or anything like that. And so that was when the pandemic started. And then I think this music was actually something that healed us all during that process. Because you guys, you can imagine, it's quite frightening. But it was all good news.
Oh, good. News. Yeah, because I was watching a video that I think you posted in January with the barbecue show, and it's very different than what I'm listening to on this. So that's quite a stretch.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, me and Barbecue have been playing together since we were teenagers.
Right.
We started playing when I was 17 when I joined the band, playing bass, and so I think what we did was just like this wild, untamed rock and roll, and I'm really proud of all of our accomplishments. But yeah, so right now it seems that wild rock and roll has to wait for
Fair enough.
many years to reignite. But I mean, when I moved to Europe in 1999, playing Spain was just like playing another planet.
Yeah, I can imagine.
People would start flipping out like for the first song. So
right.
there was no warm up. People just started going ballistic in the beginning, and I guess I mean that was kind of like a lot of the music that I was involved in was about going ballistic.
That's all right.
Right from the get-go.
So this record, how did the idea come about? How did it come into being? Because it's quite a record.
Well, basically, I've known the Sun Ra Orchestra for about 15 years.
Right.
I actually stayed in their apartment in 2005. We were on tour with the Shrines, and it was our first time in Canada, and I actually ran into the girl I lost my virginity to on the streets in Montreal, and I hadn't been, I'd moved to Europe, so I hadn't seen her in a long time. And when I met her on the street, I was asking what she was doing, and she was like, "Oh, I actually have a kind of a date with one of the members of the orchestra, the Sun Ra Orchestra, and I was like, what? You know, flipping my shit.
Was
Because
not the expected answer, no doubt.
no, not at all. You know, and like, and for me, you know, when I discovered Sun Ra, when I'd moved to Germany, I was 22, and you know, it was like finding a religion. You know, for me, it was just so important, and it was actually one of the pivotal things that made me want to do the shrines. So Sun Ra has always been like one of the, I guess, the most major influences in my life, and then, you know, our paths crossed, and I wound up sleeping on the couch in the Sun Ra. They had like a condo,
Right.
and I remember one night, and we were playing 3 nights in a row, and they were playing the early shift, like the dinner theater set, you know, like, or 7 to 9 or something, and then we were playing the midnight run at this bar called the Silver Dollar, which was basically where everyone bought drugs late at night. It was just like a total den of sin and craziness. So they would come and join us on stage sometimes when we were playing our shows. And one morning I remember I woke up, you know, just to go to the bathroom. And when I was walking towards the bathroom, behind one of the doors was this yellow smoke. It was billowing out of the bottom of the door. And I was like, oh my God, I thought something was on fire. So I opened the door, and the whole room is filled with smoke. And Yaya, one of the saxophone players of Sun Ra, and who had been there for a long time, he was playing with John Gilmore and stuff, you know, for a long time under Sun Ra's tutelage. And he was sitting there, and he had a Chinese harp, which was made of clay, and he was plucking this Chinese harp and listening to Tuvan throat singing on a little CD player, right? And he's just like, jamming to this throat singing, and then right next to him are 2 empty sardine cans on top of each other with like a rock of myrrh and frankincense, a bunch of frankincense, and it was burning like a volcano, you know. And then he looks at me and he goes, Yaya goes, Khan, sit down. I have something to tell you. And I sit down on the bed across, and then Yaya just starts telling me, like, it felt like an eternity, but it was like an hour and a half probably, or like, you know, and he's just talking to me about like the discipline that he learned from Ra, you know, and
right,
and about traveling around the world, you know, and staying in Tuva, you know, with the throat singers in these mountains, you know, and in these yurts and stuff, you know. And so yeah, he filled me up with the dream, you know, and taught me a lot about music. And, you know, and when I met Marshall that weekend, I had said in an article that had been published in the newspaper that week that Sun Ra was the biggest influence for me with the shrines. And so Marshall just looked at me, he's like, I read about you in the paper. And then, you know, it's so beautiful, you know, and so yeah, you know, we would cross paths all over the place, you know, in the
Very
world,
cool.
you know, in festivals, you know, in Poland, you know, and like all sorts of crazy places. So when I started doing the jazz record, I realized that the people that I would want most on the album were from you know, so I contacted Marshall and Noel Scott, and they were sitting in the Sun Ra house in Philadelphia. And they were really excited, actually, and when they heard the songs, and they were ready. So then the challenge became how I'm going to record the Sun Ra Orchestra members, you know, safely during this COVID thing. And I had to abort mission like twice, because I had people that I did not know very well ready to do it. But, you know, right before the session, I'd be like, no, we can't do this. It's too dangerous. So finally, they suggested that I talked to Hotep, the guitar player from orchestra, and then, you know, they did it at the same time, you know, with Hotep, you know, he's got a small family and stuff, so he's safe from the COVID. He's part of the family, you know, so he went there, and they used the old microphones that Marshall had, and so it was, and funny enough, the night that we recorded the first track, at that same night, the singer, the really popular singer, Rihanna, she put a commercial for, it was like, I don't know, 8 years old or something, you know, like, and so she didn't ask for permission or anything. she just posted it. So and it was an advertisement for sunglasses. So I thought it was just funny that while the Sun Ra Orchestra is recording a song of mine, the polar opposite of Sun Ra's music, right? This pop star Rihanna puts up a commercial using my song for sunglasses. So thought that was a very strange coincidence.
Absolutely.
But
so how did you manage to record Marshall and Noel?
So I recorded the drums with two drummers. I recorded the drums with like an Italian drummer, Davide Zoli, who plays in the Mojamatics, a really great rock and roll drummer, and then Calexico's drummer, John Convertino.
Yep.
It was Arizona, Italy, Germany, Philadelphia.
Man,
it was all. It was a miracle. I was really amazed, and then at that same time, or around that same time, was when Danny passed away. Danny Ray Thompson, who was playing baritone and flute for the orchestra, and me. I had a really great relationship with Danny. He loved the tarot cards, and whenever we would cross paths, the first thing he would do, he'd be grab me and like, read my cards now. And like it didn't matter where we were. I would just have to throw the cards down. Like we were on the street, on the sidewalk. He's like, grab me. And he's like, come on. He's like, when am I going back to Africa? And like, like a couple of years ago, I had written a poem that I'd shown to Noel from the orchestra. It was called "We the People of the Myths," and it was really like kind of in tribute of Sun Ra. And so Noel and Marshall really loved the poem, and Marshall asked me to recite it on stage with them. And so we did that twice, once in a jazz festival and in Utrecht, and once in Berlin. And it was funny because I was wearing this like this kind of furry kind of hunter's cap from Germany with a big long feather, and a shirt, with some sparkles and shit. And then Danny looked at me, he's like, "What are you gonna wear on stage?" And I was like, "Well, what I'm wearing right now." He's like, No. You got to get suited up. And I'm like, "Okay, I don't have a suit." And he's like, "You can take my spare suit." So he would give me his spare spacesuit, which was just like a hat, like it looked like a Mardi Gras hat, with like a golden thing, golden shirt, or robe, more like. So so when Danny passed, another thing me and Danny used to always talk about was the favorite magician of Sun Ra. His name was Black Herman. And okay. I think he was around, in like the early 1900s, 1920s, I think, And so he started off as being a magician for like plantations, and so like he would go and do these performances in plantations, and then he got really popular in New York, and he used to sell out the Marcus Garvey auditorium with like thousands of people, And one of the things that there were so many rumors about him. There's a great book called Blackjack about him, and but his name was Black Herman, and so he was said that he could bring himself back from the dead and all this kind of stuff. And he actually died on stage in New York, and they didn't believe that he was dead, so they left him there.
They're just waiting for him to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They were like, I guess I just imagine someone like sweeping the stage, like, "Come on, Herman, time to go." But
oh man.
but if you check this guy out, the thing was that Sun Ra's mother named him Herman because Sun Ra's real name was Herman P. Blunt. Yep. She named him Herman, and when he was kind of like hallucinating, looking at his name, the spelling of his name, that's where the Ra came out from, Herman, the R-A.
Yeah.
And that was when he realized that he had to be Ra, he had to be Sun Ra. So the way I see it is that the magic of Black Herman actually went into the next generation in this way, and so that's why in my Black Power Tarot, the magician card is Black Herman. And what's funny is that I was reading about him, and I found out that he was the one who invented the game 52 Pickup. Do you guys know that game?
Oh yeah.
Do you have that in New Zealand? Exactly.
Well, I'm American. I know it from there.
Okay. Yeah, man. I remember playing that when I was a kid, like thinking it was like the fucking funniest thing ever. Hey, you want to play? So that's an important thing, that I've learned in this whole process is that humor is our healer,
Yeah.
just as much as music, or in fact even more than music, I would say, because it's much harder to be a comedian than it is to be a magician. I mean, sorry, a musician, a magician.
Yep. Whoops.
but yeah, but we have like I know for a fact that humor is what can change trauma into healing, or it could heal trauma, and it's like I feel that in music as well. It's like when I'm not that I came from a super traumatic life, but I mean I did have very rough patches starting from my birth. My father was very psychotic and became a drug addict when I was a teenager, and I mean he threw my mom down the stairs when I was in her tummy, so like in some ways I felt I was terrorized my whole until I was 17, until I ran away,
right.
And I think this is one of the reasons that I feel so closely to what's happened in America, especially with Black people. It's like when I discovered R&B and Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and like real rock and roll, that saved my life. I was a teenager and I found my family. I found my way to travel. Even we didn't, we weren't raking in any cash at all. We were living like close to like homeless people in a way. I mean, like, sleeping in a van, like when you're teenagers, and I remember sleeping in fields and stuff like that too. And so, yeah, I mean, I was terrorized by my father in a lot of ways, and living in, being Black and being in America, for the past 400 years has been that terror, and
Yep.
I mean, I was reading just today, I think that it's already in 2020, there's been a Black man shot by police every week of this year,
Man.
And it's a fucking epidemic, I've been really involved with like some incredible people in the past couple of years. Malik Rahim, is a very close brother, and he is living in New Orleans. Malik Rahim, he was in the Louisiana Black Panthers,
right?
And I met him a few years back, and I actually invited him and did an art exhibition with him in Oakland. He came and spoke at. I did a Black Power tarot art exhibition during the 50th anniversary of the Black Panthers in Oakland. So, yeah, we've been in touch. He played the Invaders film, which is a soundtrack I've been working on for 8 years,
right?
As a part of this film festival in New Orleans. And when this pandemic started, I was talking to him on the phone, and he was really heartbroken and telling me how many people have died in his neighborhood in New Orleans, in the 15th Ward in Algiers. It's called Algiers, and mostly because they didn't have insulin.
Right.
It wasn't just the COVID. It was the fact that the diabetic people there have no access to insulin, so expensive. So this just tore my heart into pieces, and I got organized, and I started this thing. It was called the Just Insulin Initiative.
Hello, world. Some people know me as King Khan. Some people know me as the Black Snake. Some even call me Buddha. But I am here to tell you that what this world needs right now is to show some global solidarity.
Right.
And we basically, I got a bunch of ideas on how we can help the situation over there, and the next thing I got a beautiful letter from consortium of social medicine consortium of doctors who were totally approving of my idea. Basically, I want to make an app for diabetic people that you tell them what kind of diabetes you have and what insulin you need. The thing is that there's a lot of people in New Orleans who have insurance who have tons of insulin, and more than they need,
right?
Because they get it from their insurance. So basically, what my idea was to make a pen pal program where if anyone who has diabetes can hook up with someone who doesn't have it and arrange for the transfer of the medicine, And so You know, the thing I guess I learned, you know, when all my shows got canceled is that, you know, I have a ball of energy that if I don't like take care of that thing, you know, it's just like,
You got to do
I
something,
don't know
man.
what the hell's gonna happen. Yeah, I gotta
Well, you
do
got something else
with that.
going on.
Yeah.
This thing in Canada, this retribution now. Tell me about that.
Yes. I wrote my father, like who I told you I had problems with. What I think he's done like two or three things that really kind of redeemed his evilness. And one of the things, he told me the story about northern India, where near a village where my dad grew up. You know, and I went to this village when I was like 12 years old or something, or 10 years old, and there's no train station in this village. It's like the train will stop in the middle of the jungle, and there's a little footpath, and you crawl. You know, you walk through these dirt roads, and you find the village where my family's from. You know, and there wasn't even electricity. There was like one light bulb in a giant in a big room that had no ceiling. You know, it had little house things on the side. It was like, you know, visiting something from the Stone Age almost.
Right.
You know, for me, I mean, like, you know, I'm a kid. I'm watching them cook food with cow patties, dried cow patties. You know, of dead. Of cow or dung, whatever. You know,
Yep.
which they're drying on top of their huts. Anyway, so. The story of Retribution is basically that there's a subcast of that are under the Untouchables. You know, you've already heard the dread of the Untouchables,
Sure.
but there are the Musa. So what happened back in the day was that when the landowners, the rich ones, they would want to drink and gamble, they would set up a tent in the field, and they would do it there so that their families wouldn't find out what they were doing. And sometimes they would go and grab one of the children, the Musar children, and rape them. So I wrote a fictional story about one of these girls, you know, being grabbed, you know, taken at 8 years old. And the Musar, one of the things they do, they develop this relationship with rats where, like, they'll put these holes in the field, and the rats will collect grain for them. Right. And sometimes the rat would fall in and get stuck and die, and they would come and collect the grains and eat the rat. So my story is basically about, like, you know, this child, you know, going on this harvest hunt, you know, for rats and for food. And she gets raped, and then she gets tossed away into the field, and she waits until the landowners fall asleep and their servants fall asleep, and she returns and she brutally murders them all and adorns her body like Kali. You know, so it's basically a story about the origins of the goddess Kali, you know, and so you know, and then, you know, in the story, you can see it online. It's like, you know, she goes and she adorns herself, and then she goes into the city where she's not, or she goes in and meets a train. You know, she stops a train actually in the thing, you know, and I feel like because I'm from Canada, you know, the treatment of Indigenous people that I've seen all my life is so terrible. You know, when I was 15, I saw they were burning effigies of Indians in protest because the Indians had to, or the First Nations, they had to make a blockade, you know, because they wanted to make a golf course on burial ground.
Crazy. You know, being Canada, people have an idea that Canada is kind of mellow and harmless compared to the
bullshit.
United States.
Yeah, you know, I've seen this shit firsthand, you know, and there. I've never been proud of Canada. Always, you know, there's like a joke. It's like, you know, where is the Indian reservation? Oh, look where the chemical plant is.
Oh,
you know, I mean, that's more like in America, but I mean, no, but in Canada, it's the same, man. There's worse than third world situations there. They have no running water. They have, you know, asbestos poison. I mean, my brother is actually a lung specialist, and he goes up north to the Inuk, and they have tuberculosis over there, you know, and so he's training doctors up there, and his wife also, they're lung specialists, and so he spends a lot of time, you know, just immersed in the snow trying to help the Inuk up there.
And you've got a song out that your daughter sings, is that right?
When you put me down without a sound, how will the world ever know? When my judgment day seems like it's gone astray, Who'll be the keeper of my soul? Who'll be the keeper of my soul?
Oh, my daughter actually, both of them sing. My older daughter, who's 20 now, Sabalu,
Yeah.
she's released 2 albums already, and she's an incredible singer and painter and artist, and but I think her heart is set on being a scientist. So
Okay.
I'm glad, because that's the best decision to do right now.
Yeah, we need some
I
scientists.
can't. Yeah, I can't advise any of my children to go, take music on as a way of earning the bread.
Right, but she's got this recording that it's somehow something to do with Buffy St. Marie, I believe, right?
Oh yeah, so Buffy St. Marie is one of my favorite folk singers, and I don't know if you know this, but she was actually she was on Sesame Street in the 70s, and she breastfed on camera. And it was the first time that a woman had breastfed on camera, and on Sesame Street, no less. And she got in tons of trouble
I'll bet
for
she
that,
did.
and was like blacklisted and stuff.
What you doing, Buffy?
I'm feeding the baby. See, he's drinking milk from my breast.
That's a funny way to feed a baby.
Well, lots of mothers feed their babies this way. Not all mothers, but lots of mothers do.
But it's like I really admire people like Buffy, like Eartha Kitt, who really stood up for their people, and never gave in to the bullshit. They were always representing, even in the 50s, and like early 60s. I mean, like Eartha Kitt, for example, she said she was invited to the Lady Bird, the wife of Lyndon Johnson. Yeah. Yep. She was invited to a dinner, or luncheon or something, and then she spoke against the Vietnam War, and she made the president's wife cry because she was like talking about how unjust the war is. So it was that, the next day she did that, her career just went down the toilet. All her shows got canceled. She was never allowed to play in the States for a long time. Man. And she was booked, and she had to go to like Turkey and abroad to get shows and stuff, but Martin Luther King even called her on the phone the next day and thanked her for doing what she did against the Vietnam War, and so, these people, and she's the card of justice in my Black Power Tarot, and so, these are the people that my children grew up really, loving and respecting, and I'm very proud that both my daughters, they're very intelligent, strong women, and yeah, we need as much strength and intelligence as we can get nowadays.
That's a fact.
It seems to be pretty rare.
So what are your feelings about what's going to happen in the States in the next week or so?
Oh man, wow. I've been doing a TV show, weekly show with John B from the Invaders, right. And we've done it's a 4-part series. We've done 3 so far. It's available on YouTube. It's called Terrorism. And we basically start by talking about John B was in the Invaders. He's like 72 now, and so we're talking about the rise of Black Power from what happened when Stokely Carmichael uttered the first words Black Power, in like way early in the 60s. And so I think from what I've seen, America, when the people who actually helped the community and found ways to help were involved in Black Power or influenced by Black Power. There's a new film called Dope is Death that a friend of mine, a fellow Montrealer actually, I knew her in my young punk days. She made a documentary called Dope is Death, and it's about basically in the early 70s, the heroin problem was so serious in New York. People were just nodding off everywhere.
Growing up in the South Bronx, when the heroin epidemic really hit strong, I got used to seeing the addicts. At one point, there were 100,000 addicts in New York.
And it was well known that the police, when they would do a dope deal, half of it would be back on the street and money was going to the cops. It was so crooked back then. So, another way of just killing the people, flooding the ghettos with dope. And so Dr. Mutulu Shakur, who was a stepfather of Tupac, the rapper.
Right.
He read about, because when they were studying Mao's book back then, they weren't only studying Mao's book, they were studying the medicine books of China. And there was a thing that was a book that was written all about how acupuncture helps with opium addiction. So when these guys saw that, the Black Panthers, they were like, we gotta set this up here. So them and the Young Lords, they got together. The Young Lords were like the Puerto Rican gang, right? Or Black Power or Brown Power, let's say. So what they did was they occupied a hospital in the Bronx, and it wasn't a violent occupation. They didn't come with guns or anything like that. They just had press conferences in there. They occupied the thing, and they made the city, come in and talk to them. They had a press conference in and they developed the first detox program for heroin addiction in this hospital. So doctors started learning acupuncture, and it's such an incredible story, And Dr. Matu, and the thing with there's a Montreal connection too, which I'm really proud of. There was two doctors, an old man in 1950. I forget his name, but it was a doctor in Montreal and his son. He wanted to bring acupuncture into medicine, and he thought it was too crazy. He was like, "They're going to put me in the loony bin if I'm putting needles in everyone, and they're going to right." So he decided to make a massage version of it, and he would be doing like all the pressure points and stuff that with massage, and most of their clients were lumberjacks, right? So he's like, it's Canada, So big fucking these big kind of warrior beasts, who are working in the forest. So his son, he was saying that when you do massage on a person that is so big, it's like wrestling match. It's like wrestling a giant snake, So they were breaking their thumbs, and so his son went to his dad and was just like, hey man, like pops, let's fucking use needles because we can't do this, So they started doing that. And then what happened was that Dr. Mutulu and the people in New York, they went there and they learned from them in Montreal. And then that doctor went to the Bronx and taught all these people, and their whole thing was that, they started by doing the massage. And, when they opened up the clinic, every day the junkies would come and they would take off their shoes, no matter what condition they were in. They would take off their shoes, massage their feet, massage their ears, and all these pressure points. And sure enough, the junkie would feel so much relief, they would come back the next day, and then they started teaching their families how to do this. People who had, because that was the whole philosophy: just teach everyone this way of taking care of each other, and everyone will be taken care of.
Very
and
good.
These people are the ones they fucking hunt.
Right.
They hunted these people. They killed one of the white doctors that was working in the hospital that the government believed was the ringleader, right? So then, Dr. Mutulu had, Dr. Shakur had said, okay, we have to make sure no one can be the leader of this thing publicly,
right? Because
they're just going to kill you.
Your target immediately.
I mean, that's something. Yeah, exactly. It's like they killed every leader. It's unfucking real. And if they're not dead now, they're in prison. And they're doing the same. They're hunting, Black Lives Matter people. Like this has gotten so out of hand. And I mean, you're from America, man. It's like we were talking about Canada. I mean, Canada just does the same thing to the natives, to the First Nations. They're what happened with the fishermen just now, the Micmac, the Canadian fisheries, the companies are burning down their house, their storage units and their trucks and assaulting them, so I don't know what's going to happen. It's
okay. That answers that question.
yeah. I mean,
I hear you.
It's this next week is so important, and
it's true.
From what I hear, what that's the thing is, from what I hear, that it's not enough. It's just like we don't know how, or actually, I guess we do know how the powers that be, want things to be to roll, and the fact of the matter is, it's just that, technology, the mix of technology and capitalism has just been the downfall of civilization,
Okay.
Now they got you addicted to cell phones that you need to buy every year, in order
Yeah.
to get a new one. You know,
Yeah.
they have made junkies out of everyone, you know, and I guess it's the easiest thing is just to make everyone addicted to something and control them, you know.
That's
But
diversion. Nothing to see here. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.